and went down there and then asked Amanda Beers if she would have done like, just like a hi to everybody and, just for a quick video.
Oh, that went so cool.
Yeah, but it didn't work out. But it was something I was gonna see if it was possible, but maybe next time. But I've heard that she's very friendly. She's really good with the fans. To your point, Ross, she's done a lot of directing. I think she directed many episodes of Married with Children, and then she essentially, went on to do that after that. But it would have been a lot of fun.
It's interesting that the familiar, what was his name? Was it Jonathan Stark, Billy Cole?
Yeah.
Also did a lot of TV stuff. He co-created the Jim Belushi comedy that was on in the 90s. What was it? According to Jim, was on for a number of years. And he also won an Emmy for writing one of the Ellen episodes, the one where she comes out. So he was a writer and creator in addition to being an actor. The guy with the punchable face, as Mike puts it.
Well,
he's more than just a punchable face, Mike.
Well, it's good to be deep at that players.
Well, it's interesting too, because when they were doing the read-throughs and everything, when there's the one scene where with the police detective, what happens is that scene is intended to be played straight when he's being interrogated and everything. But then what he thought would be kind of cool would be to put like a spin on it, where he was kind of like ragging on Brewster, saying, oh, like, really, vampires, and just, like kind of like mocking him. And then the director went with it thinking that, this is really going to work. And he wanted to get buff for the role. So he was going to use a lot of padding, but what happened was, I guess there was a period of time that went by where actually they wound up filming his scenes later on. So what he wound up doing was he was able to work out in the gym and, buff himself up. But he had a very imposing character, though, which definitely worked for this. Like you said, he just wanted to, But Sherry's out there. Hey, hon, good to see you out there. She said we're all looking good. May, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. Good to see you out there. Thanks for liking our costumes. And Christian is saying, I remember Tom Holland wrote Psycho 2 before this. That's right. Yeah, good point about that, Christian. And this was Tom Holland's first movie too, as far as I believe this was his directorial debut.
Right, he was a screenwriter before this.
Yeah.
And the whole reason that he got to direct this is because he had a couple of successes under his belt. He'd done like 3 successful movies before this as a screenwriter, and they gave it a shot. And they basically left him alone, apparently, because they thought that Perfect was going to be the big hit, that with John Travolta and Jamie Lee Curtis.
Jeez, yes.
It's kind of like what was the other film where they did that? With Damnation Alley. They thought Damnation Alley was going to be the big hit for 20th Century Fox, so they let Star Wars run wild. Yeah.
Yep.
Oops.
Star Wars just beat it out just a little bit.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Oh boy. Colin gave you a compliment, Mary Beth. Said about the pumpkin being
Thank
awesome.
you, Colin. I believe Rizzo has the same one behind him.
I have a very similar
Rizzo
one.
needs to turn his on.
It's on. You just can't. It's too bright in here. It doesn't do your fancy light thing. Okay. It's just green. It's much older than yours.
That's kind of cool. Hey, John, thanks for joining us tonight. And thanks. Yeah, we had fun getting our costumes ready. Mine actually I thought of yesterday, so I kind of whipped this up on the last minute. I wasn't sure what to do.
There you go.
Anyway, so in regards to Chris Sarandon, though, I'll start to go around again. I know Mary Beth, you were saying. Actually, I'll start with Mary Beth because she liked Chris Sarandon's performance and everything, giving him 2 thumbs up. So, what was your opinion of him as the evil vampire? Maybe not so evil, right?
Yeah, I mean, he was the epitome of kitschy. Like he was so like just cheesy. And here's the thing: is I read like in the research that he didn't really want to do this film. Like he was nervous. It was the first time director and a first time screenwriter. Is that right? I might have that wrong. But and he was like, I don't know. I can't do horror. I don't know about this director. But they kind of talked him into it. and he rolled with it. And the funniest thing is somehow he decided, like, he just went all into it, and it works. It works beautifully. And somehow Chris Sarandon decided that Jerry's bat lineage included fruit bat. Like, did you notice how he was always eating an apple?
Yeah,
I did notice that. I was wondering
He just
what
decided-
they never really. I was waiting for some kind of reveal on that
Explanation.
Like,
Yeah.
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 Yeah, totally.
No,
fruit
he just
bat.
decided. But he did, like, Chris. Only Chris could do this. Chris could take something that's a little bit sketchy and make it genius. Like, it was genius. So yeah, I loved his performance.
How about you, Mike?
Yeah, I think he did a great. I think he's made a very good vampire. He was very convincing as the vampire. Dandridge. I the funny thing with, like you say, we've seen him in so many things since then, and then you kind of look back, and you still see the guy from Princess Bride when you look at this movie. It's kind of like that. But he is.
That's just it. I did.
He did.
I did. I saw Princess Bride. He always will be that. That
having
he
not
was
been
in his heyday.
Princess Bride fan like everybody else, I did, and I kind of, because I remember him from this role. I think probably of all his role, this is probably the one I remember him the most clearly from.
Mhm.
So,
And he was still married to Susan, I think, at this point, right?
No,
I think he was. Let me look it up. They didn't get divorced until.
No, they divorced much earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but no, he's a solid actor. There's no question about it.
Theater actor too. Yeah.
Yeah,
he's
he's clearly, he's very convincing. Obviously, there was a lot of practical effects in this. I'm sure there was a lot of makeup work for him that was unusual. I don't think he's done a lot of films where he had to do a lot of that kind of work before.
Well, with the makeup, he was like in the chair for at least a minimum of 8 hours. I remember reading about that. And then there was,
I'd read he had a theater background, so he was used to.
Yeah.
That's quite a bit more than just a little bit of pancake makeup, though.
Right. Yeah. So he was already a known quantity when he did this because he was in Dog Day Afternoon, and I know at the point that he was in The Sentinel, which was another horror movie. I know we touched on it when we talked about Burnt Offerings earlier in the month. I remember my mother going, "Ooh, Chris Sarandon's in it," So already at that point, he was already kind of a heartthrob, all the way back in '76 or whatever it was, whenever Burnt Offerings was.
Yeah,
or not Burnt Offerings, The Sentinel.
Sentinel was the following year. It came out in 77.
77. So, he played it suave, but it was an updated, it was fun. They updated the vampire, they made him, and it was fun to see how they played with the conventions. You're not supposed to welcome him into your house. And of course his mother welcomes him in. And one of the things, I mean, he doesn't have a reflection, which is the standard vampire lore. You can't go out in the sunlight. You got to keep the coffin in the basement and paint the windows
with the dirt.
And he's got the lost love with the painting.
There was the little subtle thing when he was preparing the girlfriend's coffin. He was putting the dirt in it because they're supposed to have the dirt that they're buried in,
right,
or something. That was stuck in there.
Did you notice?
They generally aren't supposed to eat food.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yes,
but he did. That was his touch, apparently, one of his touches that he brought to it. Also, he walks into the room and he's whistling "Strangers in the Night." I don't know if you noticed that when he walks into Charlie's room. So why do you think that he didn't just automatically kill Charlie?
I think he was toying with him.
Yeah. Do you think that's
I think, and also I think after he had called the police, this kind of thought about after he had called the police the first time on him. If he had ended up dead, Charlie, I think then the police would have gone, "Hey, wait a minute. This is the kid that told us the guy next door." You know what I'm saying? They would at least had gone back and investigated. So maybe he was like trying to, I think he gave him the option. Remember, like, just forget about it and, I won't kill your friends.
Right.
It would have, yeah, you're right. I think it would have drew a lot of attention. Hey, Kent's out there. Hey, Kent, thanks for joining.
Where'd you get that shirt, Roy?
I wonder where I got the shirt. Would you believe I got like 5 other ones just like it? Thanks, Chris. And Sue gave you a nice
shadows here.
Yeah.
Thank
Randy
you,
saying I should have dressed up as oh, man. Yeah, we're never gonna live that down.
Yeah, the chat. We could dress like the chat girls. Yeah.
Alexandra said the groaning at the crosses was a bit much for me.
Yeah.
And Sue said Marblehead is wearing the costume by sitting on the title. Yeah, Marblehead's making her appearance.
I think the groaning at the crosses, I think, was almost a kind of a throwback to the old vampire movies of the 60s and the 70s, where it was kind of that, they overacted, and you put who am I thinking? Christopher Lee.
Nosferatu, like everything's very
had that kind of like that overreaction. The
Hammer films.
And even Bela Lugosi.
I think he was going for that a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, and there was a little like that.
You have to have faith for it to work.
Yeah,
that's kind of an old trope as well.
With the
out across.
They had the continuity out of order with that, because at one point he uses the cross and then he says you have to have faith, and then what happens is that's what Charlie, which he didn't in the beginning, and then later on he uses it and it works. Peter uses the cross on Ed or Evil, and it works. And then when he encounters Jerry, he tries to use it, and Jerry says to him, "You have to have faith," and saying it doesn't work, but he did have faith because it worked on Evil.
Maybe the one he burned Evil with was dipped in holy water, which we would think would be the same thing.
Yeah, maybe his faith flagged. Well, that was the interesting, it's part of his character development, that he gains faith in himself and, purpose.
Well, you'd get faith. If you met an actual vampire and had actual proof, you'd be like, okay, well, maybe all the other stuff is true.
Generate faith. They didn't need to have character development in this thing. It was fun enough just chasing vampires.
Yeah.
We didn't need to try
there were character arcs for some of them, which kept it interesting.
A little bit, kind of.
Martin McDowell's character for sure, because he kind of went for this has been, basically Elvira type person, where he's just introducing movies, and apparently he obviously did a bunch of his own vampire hunter. He's supposed to be like a Van Helsing character, but then he gets fired. And then apparently just for killing a vampire, he gets rehired, and they open up the show again, which I thought.
That's the thing. Why did he get rehired?
Did they know that?
No, of course not. It didn't make any sense.
They wouldn't know that he killed the vampire, but he gets his job back. Yeah, I thought that was very interesting. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's very interesting, but very true at the time. When we had all this 80s pop culture and everything going on, we were still very much watching these horror hosts. They still had the local horror hosts hanging on from the 70s and before, introducing these creature features either on Saturday afternoons or late at night. So and they kind of had that in Gremlins too. I don't know if you remember, they're watching Invasion of the Body Snatcher. Or Billy or whatever his name is watching Invasion of the Body Snatchers. But you'd have this stuff going in your room, and it was such a kind of a living relic of the past, So now when they remade the movie, which I did not see the remake, apparently they made him like a Las Vegas. They made Peter Vincent a Las Vegas magician instead of a horror host, because I don't think people in the 21st century, younger people would know what these horror hosts are.
Like the Great Chris.
There's still horror hosts. Elvira's still rocking, and I know Spenguli is still out there.
Yeah.
I think
I like
still
the fact
exists.
that
Most people out there.
Peter Vincent was it was like a nod to Peter Cushing and Vincent Price by taking the two names and kind of an honor. But it's just that I think at one point the director, he was considering to have Vincent Price, but with that it would have almost been not looking down on him, but it would have been kind of like cheesy.
Well, he turned it down.
To get away from those type of roles because
Vincent Price turned it down. He was not. It was late in his career, late in his life, and he was ill health and he wanted to get kind of. It's funny that he said he kind of wanted to get away from the horror because of course then he's doing thriller and
well his entire career was that.
Right.
William, welcome to the show. Just want to thank you for being out there.
How do you think it would change the film had it been Vincent Price instead of Roddy McDowall?
That's a good question.
I love Roddy. He was one of those back in that day. He was one of those hardest working guys in Hollywood. I mean, the man, he made everything.
Two different types of approaches. I think, as far as the character development and the way he would have approached it. I think it just Roddy McDowall brought I mean, I think you almost would believe. I think actually, Roddy McDowall would probably be more believable in the role than, not to take away from what Vincent Price would have, his performance. Because I'm not saying that he wouldn't have been able to do it, but I think there was more of a, I don't know, stigma with Vincent Price. We would have been expecting something with that.
Well,
it's.
I mean, Vincent Price has played some straight parts, but I think that especially at that point in his career, I think we'd think he'd be prone to his presence would kind of camp it up a little bit more. Where I think Roddy McDowall brought a realistic element to it.
It's interesting you say that, because I was going to say that I think if Vincent Price had played the role, it would have been he would have delivered it much more seriously.
You think? It would have brought some resonance.
Think of it this way. Think of it this way. I mean, could you see Vincent Price being afraid of the vampire? Because that's how Roddy was. Roddy was afraid of him. Right. He realized, oh no, this kid's not kidding. This is a real vampire. And I can't see Vincent Price doing that. Like he was the guy that was always after, So that's why I think Roddy probably, unless you change the role around and how it relates to the movie, but I think the way Roddy played it makes more sense. That he's really.
I think Vincent would have been fearful, but he would have exuded it in a different way. It wouldn't have been almost like a panic. It would have been all in the delivery, just because it would have been the choices. As every actor has different choices that they make. And to your point, with Vincent Price being who he is, I mean, I'm sure he would follow the script, but he probably would have it come through in a different type of manner.
Hey, I saw him in Last Man on Earth, and he killed plenty of vampires.
Here you go, Colin.
but of course, that was 20 years earlier. So,
yeah.
Roddy has a delivery about him. The way Roddy delivers, he was believable in the role, but I always just hear, "What's his bucket on Planet of the Apes?" What was his bucket?
Cornelius.
I only ever hear Cornelius. I just hear that.
Oh yeah.
That faux teenage. I'm a grown ass man trying to be a teenage and a teenage monkey at that. Yeah, I hear it. And yet it worked for Roddy. Magic. It works. He was believable, but I just heard Cornelius the entire movie.
He does have a distinctive voice and very distinctive facial expressions.
He has a way of delivering his lines, whereas he almost has that inflection at the end where he's like, instead of making a statement, he's like making a statement, like he's asking the question, kind of. I don't know. He's got a funny way of delivering things, but it works for him.
Interesting enough, Roddy McDowall was 57 years old when he did that.
There you go, Roy.
I had made a note while rewatching it.
He was only 57.
The wig. Well, it was clearly a bad hair job on it.
The talcum powder.
It was like really bad. Yeah, it was like sprayed on powder or something. It was horrible. It was really, it didn't look natural at all.
Yeah. I don't think that was the point. Just like when they had his movies as the horror host, they didn't make any attempt to. It was kind of like Bill Murray and Scrooged, like the shows they made up, for that network.
Yeah.
They were so deliberately lurid and over the top and poorly filmed.
Accidentally on purpose.
You might be right. It might have been done on purpose that it was that bad.
It was.
But I do think he was the best choice or the better choice, and nothing against Vincent Price, but it would have been a totally different experience. I think it would have brought more resonance and more history if Vincent Price had been in the part. But
it would have been a different type of movie.
I think it would have been less. I think there would have been less humor to it,
and he would have stolen the movie.
Yeah.
As Roddy kind of does too, although Chris Sarandon I think has a presence through the whole film.
Chris carries it. Chris carries it.
He's got the dominant personality because he's the vampire. And the other thing is, he's got this suave contemporary feel about him for the 80s, but they mention his old world charm. You know what I mean? They allude to because he kisses her hand, and So we're we know that he's much older than everybody believes, except for Charlie, of course. Charlie knows the truth. And the twist in this film, of course, is that nobody believes in vampires anymore. You remember The Usual Suspects, that quote that no one believes. What is it? The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was that, he convinces that the world he doesn't exist.
Everyone know he didn't exist. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of like that. Nobody believes. It's like the boy who cried wolf. You know, it's like there's a vampire in the house and nobody believes it. So.
Well, and he even is like throwing these little trinkets around too. He's saying, well, he was invited into the house by the mom, and then he said, I'll be coming, all the time. And he said, of course, with your mom's permission. And then she's like, oh, you're always welcome. And then Charlie's like, like shivering. And like you said, when he's like kissing Amanda Beers' hand, and he's like, well, isn't that what a vampire is supposed to do? He's like, like all these little inferences, and he's like, making like some humor.
He's also goading him quite a bit, Charlie.
Oh, yeah. Now, did you catch when with the holy water when he puts it over the fire when it because the water was blessed, but what he does is he holds it over the fire before he drinks it.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So that he can drink it.
Well, he was. It wasn't really holy water. He was just checking it out to see if there was anything. To see if he could see the holiness in it. If he could detect any holiness, because it was fake holy water.
Yeah, it was everything he had. Yeah, that was from his little kit there. Because at that point, you're right. Peter Vincent was just going along to placate Charlie to make him, to kind of say now. But did anybody else find it odd that there was this big Victorian home next to these like average American houses, and they were so close that one could look out the window and see into the other window?
Into the window, the other, yeah.
It reminded me like the Munsters house, Mockingbird Lane there. To like there's this big house, and then there's like all these regular houses right next to it. I just thought that was really strange.
Kind of, but even Charlie's house was a little bit over the top because toward the end there, by the time Evil Ed turned into a werewolf and they were chasing him around, it was like. It had like a whole foyer suddenly, and the stairs and everything. It just got a little. They all got a little much after a while.
People had houses. Yeah. But yeah, it reminded me of like in the John Badham, Frank Langella Dracula, where he moves into that house and he's got like that crazy decor with the giant bat in there and everything. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
But the big stained glass thing at the top of the stairs.
Yeah.
Drives through, and you're like. Whose house was this before it was there? It was like,
right.
It's the neighborhood, in my opinion.
It also reminded me of like Rear Window. Because Jimmy Stewart's always looking out the window, and you see Raymond Burr bringing the suitcase back and forth in the night, and he's wondering what's going on over there and everything. But here we have somebody who's 17 years old playing the Jimmy Stewart part instead of a middle-aged Jimmy with his casts. In the wheelchair with Grace Kelly. So
Chris commented about the Night Stalker movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, same thing. Like in a contemporary world, nobody would believe in a vampire. Maybe now post Twilight.
You know what, Christian? Christian's talking about Salem's Lot. I was actually going to revisit that, Christian, and that
was a made for TV, wasn't it? Or was
it? Was. They did it in two parts. It's like 6 hours long.
Yeah,
I think it's like 3 hours with both.
With the master. That's the master.
Yeah, David. David Soul and
James Mason.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I haven't seen that since it was on. Yeah,
I remember that being maybe when did that come out? That seemed to be remember that being fairly scary as for kids.
Like 70s. It was late 70s.
I was gonna say so. I would have been about 10, 11 years old. So
yeah, right.
I remember that being fairly scary.
Yeah, it was.
Probably by today it's laughable.
Yeah,
but those days it was more scary.
What about the subtexts in the movie? Yeah, there's always a subtext to the vampire movies. It's supposedly amplifying certain anxieties. I mentioned the boy who cries wolf, so there's like a little bit of that fairy tale quality. But you guys mentioned when he's in the living room with his mother and he's invited into the house, and she's like, earlier she's saying, well, have you seen the new neighbor? Oh, he's probably gay and this and that, because the mother's single. And suddenly the vampire's in the house, and he's going to come off and all this stuff. It's like.
Well, see, I got watching it again. I got the impression that Dandridge and Cole were kind of,
involved.
Yeah,
well, Mike, you're right. You're right. No, you're both right about that, because the director Tom Holland was actually kind of going for that a little bit, and they Sarandon and John picked up on that. And I guess there's the one scene when he's doing the painting, and they're in the cellar, and the director had them go into a scenario where it was, seeming to be a little bit promiscuous, but there was definitely a lot of inferences with that. So that, based on what Sarandon had said, I think
there's always a lot of sexual anxiety in vampire movies.
Yeah,
he's worried about losing his.
We all assume that these kids are at least 18 because, there was some, him basically backing on, Amy Pearson there, Amanda Beer's character. I hope she was at least 18. Because otherwise, it was a little.
Yeah, she's in high school. He's macking on her. I'm like, she's in high school, theoretically.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I'm like, well, she's 18. I guess it's okay.
And of course, in real life, she was 27 at the time.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's true. They did a really good job, though, of making her like when she was like the little high school where they did the way they did her hair, and they, she did look much younger. And then, of course, once she was becoming vampire, there, the sexiness kind of came out, much more adult looking, and so they did a pretty good job of keeping her, looking like a teenager.
Yeah. It is interesting that he's so aggressive at the beginning where he wants to, get her on the bed and everything. And then the rest of the movie is so mild mannered about everything else. He's got his little blazer on when he's the vampire. It's like, well, where's this animal, attraction, this animal drive that he's supposed to exhibit, which we never really see. I mean, that's like the worst makeout scene ever. Yeah. They roll around on
just looking at those pictures.
What was that, Mary Beth?
They did. I was just looking at those pictures. Did they do it with Ed too? So American Werewolf in London had probably, when did that come out? It was like a really big thing to like show the metamorphosis. And I'm noticing they have stages for both Jerry's character and Ed's character, like stages of transformation. Mm-hmm. It was like a hot thing for a while. That actually probably is still a thing in movies.
Well, it was especially.
You're right, and it's really dragged out in this film too, with that transformation sequence. And supposedly it took about, I think they were saying close to 18 hours for him to go through that entire metamorphosis. I mean, it was pretty extensive, actually.
It was especially the case in the 80s, though, Mary Beth, because it was before CGI.
Yeah,
and they were showing off their makeup. Because in the old days, we talked about this when we did American Werewolf, how back in the 40s and stuff, the big thing was the kind of, you apply a little fur and then you fade into the next shot with more fur and you fade into, and nobody moves. But in the 80s, they started really pushing the envelope with what they could do with, Rob Bottin or who was the other guy in American Werewolf that did it? We just talked about this, the effects, Roy.
Oh, I know. And I can't think of it.
It wasn't, who was it? Oh, Rick Baker.
Rick Baker.
Elongation.
Oh, Rick Baker. Oh, yeah, he does it.
Yeah. So Richard Edlund kind of did the same kind of stuff with this. Yeah.
Didn't Richard Edlund work on Star Wars? No, I know he did Ghostbusters.
Yes, he had just done Ghostbusters.
Yeah,
he did. He did all the Star Wars movies. Worked on all the Star Wars movies, Raiders, and he did. He was recognized, with an Oscar for, several of the.
Because Joe would always, I remember back in the day, Joe was always talking about him, and they had just come off, like you said, from doing Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters came out in '84, and I guess there was a lot of, I don't want to say mistakes, but a lot of expenditures in regards to, I guess, map paintings and different things of that nature. So what they did was they made sure that those costs were not going to be taking place. They learned from them. I don't want to say from the mistakes, but they learned from their, what they had done in that picture, and they tried not to bring it into this one. So, the expenditures wouldn't pretty much, bring them down. John commented, he said, Fright Night drew on so many vampire and other horror films that came before it.
Yeah. Which was part of the fun, of course.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I agree, Colin. Yeah, that's a great transformation. Although you have to wonder, like we mentioned when we were talking about American Werewolf, it's like Superman going into the phone booth. You expect it to be kind of like this, but instead you got to roll around the living room floor for 15 minutes to change into a werewolf.
One thing I liked about American Werewolf that it was clearly very painful.
Yeah,
transformation. And I think if you think about it, it probably would be, that you're being bones are being cracked and and everything. I don't think it would be a pleasant experience. Let's put it that way.
No. Yeah, so they did a good job with that. Yeah.
No, he really conveyed that when that was happening, and as opposed to like you were saying earlier, Ross, with the old movies, where essentially they would just have the actor just like stand still, and then a little fur would appear, and then more fur would appear,
Right.
and then all of a sudden they're a
Yeah, they're just a series of dissolves.
Right.
You know?
Yes. Yeah, there
Yes.
you go. Yeah, dissolves. Yep.
Now, of course, we have computers, so you don't even need,
Right. They just put a green suit on the guy and say,
Yeah.
dance around a little
But
bit.
they
and
were
everything.
still using
Lou,
dissolves. At least they're using dissolves for Ed in this.
I did not realize that Richard Edlund worked on the original Star Trek. I think he designed the famous type style. Very cool to know, Lou.
Huh.
There's that connection.
Oh, let's
And there were-
just Google him up.
There were other effects artists involved with it too. I know Steve Johnson was working on it. Randall William Cook, who trained at Disney in the animation studio, did that mouth, like the shark mouth on
Evil.
Amy as her transformation at the end. Yeah, that was pretty creepy. But apparently they didn't want to keep it on camera for too long because they just kind of pasted it on her. But I thought that we saw a lot of that actually in the attack at the end.
Yeah.
On Amy, her mouth? Yeah.
And her
Yeah.
hair quite a bit.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I also read too? They did like a breastplate for her, and just to kind of make her seem that she was more well endowed. And supposedly Amanda Beers has brought this to different like conventions to kind of like show off, and she would actually have the fans like touch it and everything. They were commenting about that in the in one of the articles that she was.
So they like what, instead of an autograph, they got to feel up the
They get
prosthetic.
to feel the
Pretty
weight.
much, yeah. Go figure.
Autograph, feel up my prosthetic. Your choice.
Alexandra said I was going to say the same thing. Oh, Colin said even funnier was the change in the porno cinema. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, and in regards to the end of this movie too, they actually went with a different type of ending where I guess Peter Vincent was actually going to be a vampire. They were going to actually have him be the vampire, and then they decided to go in a different direction with that. And I think that was a wise choice as far as them doing that.
Yeah, I don't know if that
Alex
would have
must
been.
be a pelt Peter
Hey,
with
Alex.
the dodgeball.
Good to see you out there, Alex. Sue saying, Ray's costume reminds me of Colonel Jack O'Neill's outfit on the SG-1 episode 1969 when a solar flare sends SG-1 back in time 30 years to 1969. Yeah. Anyway, no, this was definitely a fun movie to watch. It was. It's just for me, it's just so hard to believe that so much time has gone by, with this. Now, we're not really talking about it, but did anybody get to see Fright Night 2 at all? The sequel to this?
I think I did, but I don't remember it at all.
I didn't realize that Roddy McDowall had returned. I thought that this was one of these things where it had no connection. I never saw it, but it turns out, and I didn't realize this until today, until I was reading about it, that the head of the Coralco Studios, the chairman who is producing this thing, he was Menendez, who's the same Menendez as you remember the murder with the two sons that killed the parents in L.A. Was it Kyle Menendez?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
With them?
Wow.
So they this happened while Fright Night 2 was in production, I guess, and it affected the distribution of the movie. And supposedly it's why there was never a Fright Night 3. It kind of got everything got derailed with Coralco. And coincidentally, and I didn't realize this until quite recently, the Menendezes lived not far from here in Hopewell Township.
Really?
But when the murders took place, it was out in L.A. Wasn't here. But yeah, so that kind of derailed Fright Night. Isn't that creepy? So I never saw the second one with Roddy.
So
I'm sure I did.
they
but
just
I
gave
have
up on
no
it,
record.
and then in 2011 they remade it. Okay.
But supposedly though, the guy Tom Holland, he's 80 years old now or 82,
Yeah.
but he's in the process of writing a direct sequel to the first one now. He wants to I don't know if it's reboot, not really reboot, but kind of go to the next generation and
Right. He wants to revisit it with the originals cast, I guess, have it be their children.
Their
And
children, exactly.
Yeah.
Passing the
Important to
torch.
note, this is different Tom Holland than Spider-Man.
Yes,
Different
no,
Tom
not that
Holland.
Tom Holland.
Exactly,
Completely
exactly.
different Tom Holland.
This
Yeah.
is the Tom Holland who started the Child's Play series, with Chucky.
You're right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
So
There
he's
good
just
too.
got his little fingers all over
There
horror.
it is.
That's who that is.
I was only joking. I'm
His
sure
little
most people
fingers.
knew that it was not the same Tom Holland.
Yeah. In the Spider-Verse.
The Spider-Verse, right?
Spider-Verse.
He de-aged.
Yeah.
Instead of getting older, he's getting younger. No, Steven Spielberg. No, Steven's. It was like one of those short things. The guy got something. Anyway, I digress.
Chris LaRoche is saying in the second film, Jerry's sister, who we don't even know exists in the first film, seeks revenge, and it was awful. Well, thanks, Chris. I will. The Shadow knows. I will not be checking it out.
Yeah, I don't remember the second movie being of any.
Yeah.
We actually watched it the other night. I was just curious if anybody had seen it. I actually had not seen it when it came out like 3 years later. It was okay. It was, and I'm pretty much with Chris. It was not as good as it definitely was not as good as the first one. It was lacking.
As many sequels are.
Yeah, some things are better left alone. I think that if they revisit this, if Holland does come through and I think he was talking about this in 2020. So I mean, it was maybe he got
maybe
derailed a little bit with COVID and everything. But hopefully, if he does decide to do it, they will.
Yeah.
That would have been a great question to have asked Amanda Beers at Chiller. If she had any intel on that, because it would be kind of cool, if they did come back to do that.
Tom Holland didn't direct the sequel, though. It was Tommy Lee Wallace, the guy who did the notorious Halloween 3, Season of the Witch.
Oh, I hate that movie.
I hate that movie, too.
That's another film I saw at the Budco,
I'm
Ross.
blissfully ignorant of that movie.
Don't watch it.
You're better off being that way. Seriously.
It has nothing to do with Michael Myers. It's the only one in the series that has nothing to do with Michael Myers.
No, that was too. It was really bad.
What was it? That Shamrock?
Yes, Silver Shamrock. Right.
Yeah. Oh, it was awful.
3 more days till Halloween.
Yeah.
Halloween. Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah, don't watch it, Mary Beth.
Nah, don't. It's
hard
not
fun.
We watched it so you wouldn't have to. Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like how we don't talk about Galactica.
You don't have to.
How we don't all talk about Galactica 1980.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's the Galactica 1980 Halloween.
You don't speak of it. Don't speak of it.
It's the same thing.
Did I tell you I saw Roddy McDowall once? It wasn't at a convention or anything. I was in Philly at a steakhouse. Actually, he was doing he did theater too, and he was doing Dial M for Murder, where he was playing Inspector. What was his name in the movie? Inspector Hubbard in Dial M for Murder. The part that John Williams, the actor, not the composer, played in the movie. But he came in with, it's probably not appropriate for me to say, but he came in with quite a number. There was a blonde and some fire engine red dress and everything, which was, really something else, because I don't think Roddy McDowall swung that way. but that was my one chance. I saw Roddy McDowall. I thought, wow, Roddy. But I didn't say anything to him because I figured, I'm not going to bug Roddy McDowall when he's at a steakhouse with his date, with his friend. So
that's permanently.
That was my brush with greatness. my brush with Cornelius.
I'm sure he appreciated your discretion.
Cornelius.
Thank you, Mike. I thought so.
What year? When was that, Ross?
It was the mid-'90s, so it wasn't long before he died. He only lived to be 70.
Yeah,
he was
young age.
He smoked a lot, and he died of lung cancer. He was only 70.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, though, from the late '60s to the mid '80s, he was like ubiquitous in Hollywood. He was like in everything.
Yeah, and he had been working in movies since the 30s.
To Buck Rogers to it's like.
Oh, well, he had been making movies in the 30s, and already in the 40s, he was a star. He was in My Friend
He was a child actor, wasn't he?
Yeah, How Green Was My Valley, My Friend Flicka. He was in one of the Lassie movies. Yeah, so.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
And, with every role that he played, you really believed that he was that person. I mean, he was like a chameleon almost. I mean, you know what I mean? There's some actors I'll use Tom Tom Cruise is, when you see Tom Cruise in one movie, a lot of times you see him in the same type of character in other movies. I mean, that's just, my opinion anyway. Not to say that he isn't good, but it's just that it seems to come across with the same type of character. Where with Roddy McDowall, there was diversity with that in regards to the roles that he played. So
yeah, it's interesting. He was always the same and yet kind of always different. He made a movie called
kind of the same.
Yeah, he made a movie called I always get it mixed up because it was The Haunting of Hill House, which was made into The Haunting, but then there was the something of Hell House. The Story of Hell House. It was a haunted house movie anyway, another haunted house movie, and Roddy McDowall shows up and he's got the bell bottoms and he's got the tinted sunglasses. So I always refer to him in that movie as Moddy McDowall. Because he's all mod. And Christopher Plummer is unbilled. He's the kind of the satanic presence in the house. But yeah, but I think one of Roddy's worst roles was you remember Tales of the Gold Monkey, where he played the French.
Yes, he played I love that show.
I love that show
too. Tales of the Good Monkey.
Yeah, but I thought he's kind of, I love Roddy, but I thought, do you believe him as a Frenchman? I don't know. It works.
The show is we've been considering doing that show because it's definitely we were going to do it. It was taking advantage of the popularity of Indiana Jones of Frederick.
Yeah, do me a favor, if you're able to find that show, I've been looking.
I have it on DVD.
Good.
The whole season was released on DVD.
We had talked about it. Yeah.
Where did you? Did you get it?
I always loved that show as a kid, and I don't know where I came across it. Was like announced that they were releasing it, and as soon as it was released, I ordered it. And
nice.
Many years ago.
Yeah, I can't find it because
I think it's like Land of the Lost and stuff where they like produced them and then that was a run and that was the end of it. I'm sure they didn't sell once they sold what they had, they weren't like, oh yeah, this sold like hotcakes. Yeah. So we're not gonna print any more of those.
Nah, that came out in 82. And what was the other one they did with Bruce Boxleiter? It was on its
Bring Him Back Alive.
Bring Him Back Alive. They were running simultaneously.
Yeah, because he was Frank Buck.
Yeah,
it was a real life game catcher. He did these shorts back in the 30s called Bring Him Back Alive that they showed in the movies.
Yeah.
What was his Jack? Jack was the one-eyed dog. He lost his card game, right?
I mean, I love that show because it had all the elements. Because it had the pirate kind of aspects. You had, first of all, it had the seaplane. Mm-hmm. It was very, very Indiana Jones.
Oh yeah,
there's a lot of the goose.
Very Indiana Jones.
Love that Ellen Grumman goose. So yeah, and it was what's his name from Star Trek: The Motion Picture? There, Decker.
Stephen Collins.
Yeah,
Stephen Collins. Yeah.
Stephen Collins.
Now I haven't seen this since it was on.
Yeah, I would love to see that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever
find it. I bet you if you go on YouTube, I bet you they're all.
I looked for it. I couldn't find it.
Yeah, Martin says it's YouTube.
Yeah, I found clips, but not complete episodes. It's funny you're talking about that plane and everything because a Chiller, the guy that I don't recall the actor's name, but the actor that played Jock in Indiana Jones, he was actually a Chiller this weekend, and he was signing autographs, and he had his pet snake Reggie with him too, which was kind of cool. But yeah, good times. Well, if you ever can burn off a couple of copies, Mike, let me know.
Yeah, I gotta find it. It's probably in my box that I put all the DVDs into. But I do have it.
Don't make these arrangements on the air here because
that's exactly no, Roy. I'll never do that. Illegal, Roy. Don't ask me to do anything illegal.
Well, I wasn't talking about the DVDs, Mike.
Roddy McDowall was a huge film buff. He was really into the history of film. And he had all of these private films in his home, and the FBI busted in 1974 and took everything. And they dragged him out of there, and they ultimately didn't charge him for anything. But he had thousands and thousands of films and videotapes before they were available for home consumption because he was so into the history of cinema. And he was one of the founding members of the National Film Preservation Board in 1989. So even though the FBI yeah, so even though the FBI busted him down 15 years earlier, it didn't stop him from championing film. Apparently, he had all Errol Flynn's private collection of films. So
Wow.
presumably none of them with Ron Jeremy, but
what a loss, though. I mean, having he all that behind the scenes footage that he would have taken and everything. I mean, that would have been really cool to have that unearthed. You have to wonder if they just wound up in a dumpster somewhere, or if somebody actually has it and is just like holding on to it and just not sharing it. But it's kind of like that, and I'll make the Star Trek connection there. What the guy that was the extra that was in like 50 episodes in the original series, and he brought his Super 8 camera to this, with him to the set. He was filming Blackburn.
Yeah, Billy Blackburn.
Yeah. Billy Blackburn. Yeah. I mean, he would be somebody I would love to talk to, have on the show, or I mean, even if the set tour, he'd be great. Oh, he's not.
He doesn't. He lives in Vermont. Does he live in New York or Vermont? He's
I thought it was Connecticut, but I'm not sure.
He's in the Northeast somewhere, I thought. But yeah,
he's got to be up there, though. I mean, he's
I don't.
He
didn't do public appearances. I don't know if he ever did them, or if he did it not in a very long time.
Yeah, I mean, those things.
You're right. He would be a great one to talk to.
I mean, Eddie Paskey. I mean, that was a gem to meet him.
Eddie was great, and I was lucky enough to talk to him on several occasions to talk to Eddie, and he was such a sweet man. And he did come up to the sets.
Yeah,
and he literally was in tears. I mean, he's like, I can't believe what you guys built. This is amazing. I never thought I'd see this again. That kind of thing. He's a very nice man. It's a very shame that he died, but Eddie was great. I always thought somebody should have done a documentary with him.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree.
It's one thing to hear George or Walter or Bill talk about the show.
Yeah.
Here's the guy that was like the fly on the wall.
Yeah, he was there from the second pilot.
Episodes, I mean, he had stuff to tell.
Those guys have the stories. It's even with like in 1999, it's there are extras that that play the security guards. They were there from the first day, and then they're there in the last episode. It's like they saw everything. But
speaking of which, Roy, did you pre-order your Eagles that Jerry Anderson's reissuing?
No, you know what that is? That's Eagle Moss too. No.
I saw those and I immediately said Roy's probably ready.
Yeah.
I'm gonna order it.
As you can tell, Ross is a Space 1999
fan. I'm more of a fan of the Eagle. I'm a fan of the Eagle, not necessarily the show.
No, Mike likes UFO.
UFO.
Yeah, Mike likes UFO.
I'm actually going to be covering that again, Mike. So I'm going to probably try to get a few people on for that. So I'll definitely be sure to include you in that discussion.
Okay, definitely.
UFO fan. But yeah, so overall, I mean, we'll start to wind down, but before we do, because I know it is, it's Sunday and everything, but 2 thumbs up.
Oh, 2,
oh, yeah,
3,
absolutely.
4.
I give it
2 thumbs and a toe up.
It's still an entertaining movie. Like my only niggle with it is I felt they could have tightened that ending up a little bit. I thought it kind of dragged it out a little bit, but beyond that was just I think just a little tighter editing, maybe kill him a little quicker.
No, this is true. One thing I want to do is I always like to give a shout out to Starlog magazine. So back in the day, Starlog issue number 97 actually did some coverage on this film. So if you've got Starlog in your collection, definitely check it out. I'm sure there's probably a couple other issues. Really, Fangoria was the one that actually did a lot of coverage. They actually had a reporter come to the set to discuss that, but always wanted to make sure to mention Starlog. Ross, in regards to the musical composer, though, do you have any info on Brad Fiedel?
Yeah, we talked about him when we did the Terminator. There's really not a heck of a lot to tell. I could say that he worked with Paul Simon. He signed with his company and worked as a keyboardist with Hall & Oates for a while in the 70s. But it was really the Terminator that was his breakthrough film score. And he did a lot of films, but he moved on then to concentrate on musicals. So right now he's kind of the most recent information I have. He's working on a recording of his musical Full Circle. So, but that's all I really have about him. He always did electronic music, though. It was never, orchestra stuff. Everybody remembers kind of Terminator, and Terminator 2,
That was a great movie.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
That's
Thanks,
what I've
thanks
got.
for that, Ross.
We should
And Mary Beth
probably.
and
We
Mike.
didn't really. Yes.
Oh, any last comments that you want to say before we go to the shout outs?
I was just saying we touched on Chris Sarandon, we touched on Amanda. We should probably touch on William Ragsdale, who, if any of you guys, do you guys remember Herman's Head?
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
He did Herman's Head.
Yeah. I never
Yes,
saw it.
That's where I recognized him from. I couldn't place it. And now
he's working like he's done a ton of work. He's one of these people who does like one of the, the guest shot in every single show there is out there.
Yeah.
He's done a ton of that. And then the only other sad note we should probably say is Stephen Jeffries.
Yeah.
Did go on to do some porn, but
it wasn't just
I wasn't even gonna go there, Mary Beth.
It's a family show, Mary Beth.
We bring the information. Sci-Fi Distilled digs deep.
Yeah, we don't have any scruples.
we dig deep too, but we level it out.
It's funny because if you look at his IMDb, it's like this, and then it's like gay porn, gay porn, gay porn.
And it's all gay porn.
Interesting enough, he was also a chiller.
I know. Well, that's why, especially.
He started doing cool. Farther down, but once you get past the porn, he started doing regular stuff again.
Yeah, he started regular TV again, and he actually sounds like a cool guy. Like he sounds like he's always down to talk a little Fright Night and whatever.
His we didn't really talk about that character much, but he was the most over the top of the
yeah, he was.
Like Bruno, but I was
had a funny line delivery too.
One kid in high school that was always the spaz like him.
Yeah,
there was always the one, and like somebody said to me, if you didn't have one, it was probably you.
I love his one line, and I've used it, throughout the years. You're too cool, Brewster.
Yeah.
But I mean, there was I was thinking about it, I'm like, there was at least one kid in high school that always that was that kid.
Spaz, yeah, total spaz.
You know what though? It was like a tragic character too, because you had to feel sorry for him almost, because when Jerry does finally confront him, and he's running because he is being chased by him, and he puts his hand out to him and he says, I'll make it better for you. Nobody's going to pick on you anymore. And he said, just take my hand. And he's terrified because it's a vampire, but he puts his hand out and,
very Blue Oyster Cult.
Yeah.
You're the Reaper.
The casting was very, very 80s. It was the high school kid, his girlfriend, and his spastic, well, it wasn't really his best friend, but just their spastic classmate. Yeah, it was so 80s.
And supposedly they took the inspiration for Evil Ed from Willie from Dark Shadows. I don't know if you ever watched Dark Shadows with Barnabas.
Yep.
Willie was the guy that was trying to steal the jewels out of Barnabas's coffin and wound up as his familiar.
Guillermo.
Hey Leslie, thanks for joining us.
Guillermo.
I actually ran into Leslie at Stop and Shop last night. Ran into her and her daughter. Good to see you out there. Yes.
Yeah, Chris Sarandon had quite a career. Yeah. Oh, and he was Jack Skellington. I didn't realize he
Chris was Jack Skellington
until today.
Yes.
I didn't realize. Wow.
Yep.
Yeah. So so he had quite a career over the decades too. He still didn't beat Roddy. He's got a way to go though to beat Roddy.
Yeah.
Well, Chris Sarandon, I can't believe he's 82 years old. I was like, wow.
I know.
Everybody's getting up there.
Yeah, but I didn't think he was like 42 when he did this movie.
Sarandon and Chris Guest, just the two of them in Princess Bride, were just over the top.
Yeah,
so
Chris
good.
Guest is always great.
I gotta go back and rewatch that movie. I only saw it once, and I didn't even see it all the way.
We did it with Phil. We made Phil watch. It was a make me watch.
It was me. I was the one that had to watch.
Oh, it was you? I thought you. Oh, I thought Phil had.
I've never seen it. I don't.
Do you like it, Mike?
It's a fine movie for the 80s. I don't get why people are so enamored with it.
It's the best movie.
I don't get it. See, it was
As
cute,
you wish.
but it wasn't like.
Wasn't Andre the Giant in that?
Of course.
Inconceivable.
Really, the best line is you keep using that word. I really don't think you know.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I've used that. I've used that myself, but it's not a bad. I'm not knocking the movie. I just don't understand what
It's the best movie. Alex, you out there, Alexandra? Please tell Rizzo that Princess Bride is the best movie.
She can tell me what she wants. She'll still be wrong.
Christopher Guest was actually doing an impression of Henry Daniell from the Seahawk in that movie. If you ever watched the old Errol Flynn movie, he does.
Was he really?
Yeah, he does a real supercilious villain. Yeah,
he plays the six-fingered man.
Delivery. Well, he didn't have the 6 fingers in the Seahawk, but he definitely had the delivery. Yeah.
Alex says she has already. And Alex Viaggio says, have fun storm. Bye-bye, boys. Have fun storming the castle. You think it'll work? It'd take a miracle. Bye.
Oh, boy, you got this down. Listen.
Oh, God, I know it by heart.
Wow. Hey, Paul's out there. Hey, Paul.
Anybody want a peanut?
Anybody want a peanut?
No more rhymes. I mean it. Anybody want a peanut?
Oh, boy. Everybody's jumping in.
He's only mostly dead. Mostly dead still means a little bit alive.
We'll have to go back and watch
what happens
that.
If they're all dead? Well, then you go through their pockets, look for loose change. So, it's just a very quotable movie.
But
even the Shadow, Rizzo, even the Shadow says you don't like it. That's inconceivable.
I didn't say I didn't like it.
You
like it.
Oh man,
it's like words in my mouth. I said I just don't understand why everybody's so like over the top.
Your job is a mistake.
I just don't get it. I just
oh man, you're Roy, your audience is coming hard with the quotes tonight. Look at him.
Oh, yeah,
look at him.
I mean, clearly
it's not about this movie though.
There's clearly a cult following for it. I just don't get why.
No man.
The Dread Pirate Roberts.
You know what? We'll have to revisit it, and we'll have you guys on and we'll talk about it.
Princess Bride.
And just for the record, Alex has no leg to stand on because she doesn't like Star Wars.
What?
And she likes Jar Jar.
Whoa.
Okay. So
Alex.
Now you're getting nasty.
Oh, shots fired. With Alex, you have to like Star Wars.
This is what I'm saying. So you can't.
Mike's pulling out the big guns.
It's a law.
If you're gonna go down that road,
oh boy.
You gotta know Trek. You gotta know Wars. You gotta know the stars. You gotta know little
I've taken her under my wing for Trek.
Maybe a little Blazers. You gotta know all the stars.
Whoops.
Maybe a little Lost. I don't know. Well, everything.
I got her to watch Forbidden Planet.
Oh, there you go. The classics.
That's
what I'm saying. It's like she's like the Padawan learner, but I failed at Star Wars.
Leslie's doing celebrate Mowedge. That blessed arrangement. That we
because speech impediments are so funny right now.
Right.
It was for Princess Bride. It worked, and we still quote it that way to this day. So I
know.
Too funny.
Just like Mel Brooks is still funny, but we can't quote anything.
I'm still waiting for History of the World Part 2.
It's just, the best part about Mel Brooks movies is that he's making fun of what we find offensive.
Oh, of course. Actually, I think a lot of times that's the case, but people misunderstand. Yeah,
but people do misunderstand.
It ruins the R's.
Yeah, we do. Oh boy. Anyway, all right. So I'll tell you what, guys, everybody out there. Well, before we do that, Alex.
We both are Alexes in the audience tonight. Alexandra and Alex.
Yeah, that's History of the World. Great.
There we go. Keep them coming. Oh, yeah, I heard about History of the World Part 2 on TV, but I'm talking about the movie version, the Martin. Yeah. I'm waiting for the movie.
The TV show was okay.
Yeah, I haven't seen
it. I may have watched the first 2 or something.
It was okay. It was not. It was nothing. It was nothing like the original movie.
No surprise. Well, the first one, the movie came out in '81, I think.
It was a while ago.
Yeah. To me, the last of the good Mel Brooks movies. Yeah, and even that wasn't up to the previous ones, but that was.
For me, it's the last. Whole thing. Damn right. Nice.
Anyway, all right, folks. Yeah. So if you have any last minute comments, please put them in the chat, which you are doing, which is fun.
Count de Monet. It's the Count de Monet.
It should be about Fright Night, not Princess Bride. But hey,
Hey, why not? we're winding down.
It's all good. It's Halloween. It's all good.
It's all good. So we got Sci-Fi Distilled here. So guys, what's going on? What do you guys got going on for this week?
Yeah, we're gonna try something different. We're gonna be on Tuesday night this week because it's Halloween on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. So anybody that wants to come on, we'll bring you on one at a time and in costume, and we can just talk.
Or not, whatever. Just come on the show.
Come on. We prefer some kind of costume.
Wear something.
You
Wear
only-
something.
you only have to be
Clothing is not optional.
That rules Matt out.
Throw on a wig and come on the show.
So yeah, we'll post it. We'll post a public link. We're gonna go. Just we'll see how long it goes. It's nothing. There's no format. Just kind of Halloween.
Yeah.
None of us seem to do anything for Halloween, so we figured we get everybody together. Show us your costume. Show us what candies you're giving out. We can be bribed with candy if you want to ship it to us. That's fine too.
There you go. So that's going to be Tuesday, October 31st, not Wednesday, but Tuesday, the 31st at 7 p.m. Eastern
Halloween
Daylight Time.
Eve.
Yes.
Turn us on while you're passing out candy.
There you go. We'll heckle your kids as they go by.
We'll heckle the kids.
Oh, man.
Okay, should I put Friends teeth back in?
I want to give a shout out to the Eagle Has Landed project. So it is currently in production for those who have been following. For information, you can just go to the website, and that's www.eagledocumentary.com. So things are moving forward with this, and very excited about this project. So if you are Eagle fan, Mike, you were saying before, this is gonna happen. So it's gonna be
great.
Maybe sometime next year, and then also be available for the 50th anniversary of 1999. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. So thank you for that, everyone. And then also I want to give a shout out to our friends at Countrygate Theater. They actually are doing Steel Magnolias this weekend. They opened this weekend. They had a matinee today. If you are in the Belvedere and Harmony area of New Jersey, you can catch it next weekend. It'll be on Saturday and Sunday. So the dates, it's going to be running until November 5th. You can go to the website, which is www.countrygate.org for information, or you can go to Bill's website, which is www.billscorrado.com. And then the Captain Phil, for Captain Phil listeners out there, he is broadcasting on WUSB 90.1 FM, Stony Brook, New York. His schedule is on alternating Thursdays from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and then on Fridays at 9 to 11:30. Mary Beth, do you have any ideas?
This Thursday I'll be with him. We've been talking to musician Freddie Smith, and I don't know quite what's on the Friday night freeform yet, but I will be on there on Thursday, and I'll also be talking about the upcoming William Shatner event at the Star Trek Set Tour. So tune in to hear some of those details.
Cool, and that's for Captain Phil's Planet. And I also want to give a shout out to our friends at Studio One Thrift. As we announced, they now have a new physical location. Martha has launched this, and you can go to their website online. It's www.studioonethrift.com. You can find out information. They have quality, stylish, affordable clothing for both men and women. You can also receive styling tips and information updates. All you need to do is subscribe to receive those updates. And again, there is a physical store. For information, just visit the website. And again, that is studioonethrift.com. And Ross, if you can let everybody know what's going on.
It's all right there. Picture Perfect's the movie music show. These are the two recorded shows I've got. Picture Perfect's the movie music show. That's Fridays at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. And The Lost Chord is the unusual and neglected repertoire show, classical music. That's Saturday at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. We converted this to Eastern Time, even though these shows are airing now on the West Coast. So if you're on the West Coast, you have to add 3 hours. But they can be heard at KWAX, KWAX at Classical Oregon. And Roy's been kind enough to put the link up there at the top of the page. Or you just drop by my Facebook page at Classic Ross Amico. I always plug the shows on the weekend, and you can see what I'm doing, on any given day that the shows air. And you can follow the link directly to where you can stream them at KWAX. That's it for now. Thanks, Roy.
Cool. Thanks, Ross. And you're going to have updates about some stuff that's going to be potentially coming down.
Yeah, I've got a new show coming up in December, but I'll talk more about that at a future date.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ross.
Yeah.
And just to let everybody know, we are coming towards the conclusion of Halloween month. We actually had postponed The Exorcist last weekend. I got hit with a really nasty bug. So we were supposed to do the show last week, and then it just carried over into Sunday. So we didn't do a show last weekend. So anyway, we are going to close out Halloween month by celebrating The Exorcist, which is the 1973 movie. we're going to be talking about the theatrical release, which is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year. Ironically enough, it was released on December 26th, the day after Christmas, which we will not be doing. And, and we will be doing this Friday. And that will be on November 3rd. So just to let everybody know.
It's cursed, you know.
You know, it is.
Everybody freaking died.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, we're going to be talking about that, and that will be
just
next
this year, so
Friday. So anyway, just checking the comments just to see some last minute comments that came in. Alex is asking if you guys are going as Adam and Eve.
No.
For the Halloween party. Boom. Deborah, thanks for joining. What was that, Mike?
I said we'll have to come up with something new since we've already done dodgeball.
Yeah. Well, I was determined not to do Star Trek or Space 1999 for this show, which I did not want to do. Let's see.
I just think Spaceballs is
Mary Beth has like a whole wardrobe of costumes, so
yeah,
a little easier for her.
I do, but it's mostly from doing this.
Yeah, right.
I know, isn't that cool though? This is our 4th year of doing this as far as our Halloween celebration.
We've been doing it, and I haven't worn a Star Trek costume yet. I don't think.
No, I don't think any of us have.
None of us have worn Star Trek.
No,
that's good, guys. Look at us. We're branching out, exploring new things. Good for us.
There
Next year, we'll all show up as red shirts.
Big
burn marks.
Shot through the head, red shirts.
There was only one woman red shirt that got killed on the original series.
Yeah, whatchamacallit, by any other name.
Yep, by any other name, correct.
By any other name, yeah. Julie
Cobb.
Cobb.
The styrofoam girl?
Yeah.
She was the ensign.
Yep, she was the one that was crushed in the little styrofoam ball.
Crush the styrofoam.
You know, just an interesting tidbit about her. She was actually married to the Zephyrin. I can't think of the actor's name. The guy that played Zephyrin Cochran in the movie.
Oh, you're kidding?
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was
James Cromwell.
Yeah, yes. That's Cromwell. Yeah.
Yeah, they were married. I don't think they're together anymore, but they were married. No.
Interesting.
That's cool.
It's interesting when I think of him too. The first thing I saw him in. You remember the movie Murder by Death?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I thought that would have been a good one for tonight.
He did tons of stuff. Of course, he did at least one TNG episode.
Yes. Yes.
Besides Cochran in the film.
Yeah, he was he was like the ruler of a planet.
He was like an administrator, yeah.
The one where they couldn't the people were turned into lethal weapons.
Right. They had augmented their soldiers and then just kind of when the war was over, just stuck them on a moon because they were too dangerous for society.
Yeah. There we go. We see
Chris,
we got
no message there.
Yeah. Chris LaRoche, you can be the Shadow. You can be the Shadow every year. You can be the Shadow every day. You can be the Shadow as much as you want.
Or Thor.
Be the Shadow.
He likes to be the Thor.
Hey,
Happy
Randy.
Anniversary, Randy.
Yeah. Congratulations.
We were recently at a wedding of somebody who got married on Friday the 13th. So that, there's that.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. An interesting choice.
Same day I got married.
Was it?
It wasn't a Friday.
But it wasn't Friday when you got married.
No, it was
just the 13th.
It was Saturday the 13th.
Saturday the 13th.
Well, here's another movie we could have done.
Saturday the 14th.
Saturday the 14th.
Friday the 13th, yeah.
Richard Benjamin.
Richard Benjamin, right.
Yeah.
That was we have all this stuff for next year.
It was not a good movie.
No, it wasn't.
No,
so it would have been totally suitable.
Yes, true. It would have fit. It would have fit.
When I think of Richard Benjamin, I always think of Quark, though.
Quark. I knew you were going to say that. I always think of Westworld.
Oh, Westworld too. Yes. Yep. That's true. Him and James. Oh my God. Brolin. Yeah.
James Brolin. Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris says it's okay. Change is good. Okay, Chris.
It's all good. Well, I just want to thank you for being on with us.
Bill.
This was fun. Oh.
Bill is remember the 5th of November.
Yes, Guy Fawkes Day.
Guy Fawkes Day, yep.
There you go.
All right, kids.
As we always like to say, live long and prosper. Everybody have a wonderful week. Have a happy mischief night. Be safe and happy Halloween. And we will see you.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. Remember, if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
Good night, everybody.